All right, y'all. We got a video from Jimmy High Roller. What did I just witness? I see Victor Wembanyama and I see Chet Holmgren. I'm interested to see what this one is about. High Roller always got good ones. Here we go. Victor been doing his thing.
Did y'all just see that?
Hey.
Here. This isn't normal. Victor Wembanyama is standing near the three-point line and in one step manages to extend his arm like a selfie stick and pick the ball loose beyond the free throw line. This reach, from where his left foot is to where his right hand is about 9 feet. Which means in just one step, Victor can cover this much space on the court. If I wasn't familiar with Wembanyama and his freakish length, I'd think the Spurs drafted an alien. And Victor is the exception. But standing right over here on the wing is another 7' 1" unicorn that has the tools to do things with his length that shouldn't be possible. In fact, it feels like these ultra-sized Swiss Army knives are becoming more and more.
That layup was insane.
From
I remember seeing
guards
that.
To point forwards to 7' 4" big men calling for lobs at the three-point line. It feels like there's more size
crazy.
in the NBA today than ever before. Is the NBA getting bigger? Well, there's only one way to find out.
Is the NBA getting bigger?
Today's video is sponsored by Factor 75.
Is the NBA getting bigger? Hoo-wee. Might be. I mean, think about it. Like, the NBA recently has been really dominated by guards. You know, like, if you think about it, there's so many guards nowadays, and so many teams play small ball. It's like
Factor Box with code HighRoller50
might be changing.
at Factor75.com.
It's been dominated by guards for a while.
This is Walter Dukes. Walter was a solid NBA player throughout the 50s and early 60s. But
Dang,
what
50s?
makes Walter special is that he was the very first 7-footer in the NBA when he was drafted in 1955.
Huh?
Basketball players have always been
He was the first 7-footer drafted in the NBA?
for
Wow.
their stature. But when Walter was playing, he wasn't just considered tall. He was a one of one. A spectacle, and he would remain the only 7-footer in the NBA until a talented prospect out of Philadelphia was drafted in 1959. Named Wilt Chamberlain.
Yeah,
the
I thought
following
so.
season in 1960, 7' 3" Harvey Holbrook joined the NBA and would remain the tallest player in the history of the league up until
Really?
1982, when the Utah Jazz drafted 7' 4" Mark Eaton. 7-footers used to be extremely rare. Landing a player whose height began with a 7 used to mean winning the jackpot. But in today's NBA, 7-footers and positional supersized players have become so common that not having one can be detrimental.
Yeah.
The future of the league and
It's
the sport
crazy.
itself is pointing in one very obvious, inevitable direction. More size and more length.
Yeah.
Which really got me
Yeah.
thinking, is the NBA getting
Yeah.
taller? Has every position around the league seen an influx in size from combo guards to point
LaMelo.
forwards all the way to 7-foot do-it-all demigods? Is this matchup between Victor Wembanyama and Chet Holmgren
Hey, I could be
just
wrong.
an anomaly
I
in
could
the
be wrong.
NBA's
I
timeline,
said I
or
thought the
will
league was
players like
trending
this
to
eventually become the new norm 20, 30
towards like
years from
smaller
now?
guards,
Well,
but
here are the
then I mean you
average
got
heights across the NBA
guys
for
like
each
Giannis
position 30
and
years ago
Embiid
in
who just do
1993.
everything
Here
at their
are those
height, you know?
positions and measurements in 2003 and in
Bigs nowadays
2013
can do
and
everything,
in
so.
2023. And over the course of 3 decades, not much has changed. The
Hmm.
traditional size standards throughout the NBA suggest point guards are usually about 6'2", shooting
Evolution
guards are
of
about
size.
6'5", small forwards are 6'7", power forwards are 6'9", and
Evolution of
centers
height.
are about 6'11". And this generally remains the case to this day. Although there are some small fluctuations around the edges. Point guards are nearly 2 inches taller today than they were in 1993. But centers are an
Wow.
inch shorter today than they were in 1993.
Wow. See,
In
I guess that's
1993,
where I
the
got.
difference between a point guard and a center, on average,
See, so I guess I'm not crazy then, because I was saying like, I thought I was trying to say like I thought like the NBA, like a lot of teams played a lot more like small ball, and I guess this kind of goes to show that, I mean, I guess I'm not wrong about that. It's just that now we got Victor. We had Taco Fall. I don't even know if Taco Fall is currently in the league,
was
but
nearly a foot.
you know, we had like
Today,
these
that difference has
giants.
shrunk to just 7 inches. In fact, this change, the homogenization of the league and the size of its players, is by design. When you chart size in the NBA, it comes out like this. A bell curve. Not a lot of small guys, not a whole lot of big guys, and a lot of guys in the middle. But if you compare the size data from the league in 2023 and the size data from the league in 1993, the evolution of the league and its players becomes a lot more clear. In both of these seasons, the average height of players across the league is exactly the same. 6
wow,
feet,
really?
6.7 inches.
Really?
That would suggest that things really haven't changed over the last 30 years. But once you see how that size is distributed, you can get a better understanding of the evolution of the game. Size used to be almost evenly spread out. You've got your traditional point guards, your traditional rim protectors.
Now it's like
your wings and
6'4",
slashers.
6'5",
They each have a
6'6"
distinct role on the
guys.
court.
It's a lot
And
more
with
of
a
them,
handful
huh?
of exceptions, usually their size determined their role, for better or for worse. But in today's NBA, thanks
Everyone
to
can do
advanced
everything.
analytics and better schemes and more data at the league's disposal,
Everyone can do
those
everything,
roles
bro.
and positions are becoming more and more obsolete. It's not the size that's changing, it's how we value and use size that's changing. In 2023, the most common
like how you
height
put
in the
that.
league is 6'5". And this range right here, the middle guys, the Swiss Army knives, makes up nearly 60% of all players. In 1993,
Really?
the most common height was 6'9", and those middlemen made up just 43% of the league. The NBA has become condensed, where falling somewhere in the middle of size and skill set has almost become a valuable commodity. And the reason for this is actually very simple. Versatility. With the introduction of the 3-second rule in 2001 that forced big men to leave the paint on defense, and the three-point era that has brought offense further and further away from the rim, teams can no longer afford to have players on their roster with hyper-specific sizes and roles. Having guards smaller than 6'2" can leave a massive hole in your defense. on the
Everyone got to
perimeter.
do everything.
Defensive
That's kind of
schemes
what
in
I've been
today's
saying,
league
yeah.
are designed to find the mismatch and exploit it. Players like Donovan Mitchell, Trae Young, and Darius Garland are able to mitigate this liability with their offensive output, but the liability still remains. Having big, burrowing centers on your roster used to be a viable strategy, but now that the game has forced them outside of the paint, they too have become a nuisance on defense with screen-heavy offensive schemes and switches. The
Everyone
solution
switches
to this
everything,
problem?
yeah.
Players who fall right in between those two extremes. Guys who are quick enough to defend the perimeter, but have enough size to not fall into a
Dang.
mismatch.
Look at all these guys, man.
LeBron James is the prototype for this kind of
6'5"
player.
to
Since he entered the
6'9",
league in
bro.
2003, these
Wow.
attributes have become increasingly more common and valuable. The rule changes that took place in the late 90s and 2000s completely altered the makeup of rosters and have turned rosters like this, with a large variation of size and skills,
Into like
this, a
6'4",
roster that is made up of a bunch of all-in-one talents with a few specialty players around the edges.
Yeah,
But those are just the
6'4",
defensive
nah,
implications
6'5" to
of having a
6'9", I'd say.
one-size-fits-all roster in the NBA.
It's really like
On
the
offense,
range.
this evolution is just as
It's a lot of guys that are
Since
like
2014, the NBA has been keeping track of advanced
a lot of
player
guys that
data
are like
speed,
6'5" to
distance,
6'9".
individual time of possession. These statistics
That can kinda
are all
do
tracking
everything.
data. And according to this data, here are the players who had the most touches per game in the NBA 10 years ago.
Oh, wow.
And tell me if you notice a theme going on here. It's pretty obvious, right?
A lot of guards.
Almost every player near the top
lot
of
of
the
guards.
leaderboard is small. Most of them 6'3" or shorter.
Oh, yeah.
And this is
I
how
said
it's
a lot
been
of guards,
since the
but
game
yeah,
was
it's small.
created. Until recently. Because here are the touches per game leaders from this past season.
2013, 14, yeah, it's almost all guards, almost all small players. 9 years later, bro. Got Siakam up there. LeBron. Jokic at number 1. Harden, Luka. Still some guards up there, but yeah, there's definitely a handful of like wings and bigs up there, you know. Definitely
With only
looks
a
different.
handful of players under 6'3" cracking the leaderboard. In fact, in 2014, there were only 7 players out of the top 35 leaders who were at least 6'5". In 2023, 21 of the top 35
Dang.
players were at least 6'5".
Goodness.
Instead of putting the ball in the hands of the designated point guard or the guy who has the best handle, teams now are just letting their best player handle the ball most of the time. It
Nuggets.
feels like guards have gotten
Nuggets.
bigger and taller because they have. Not because the
Nuggets.
league is getting taller, but because instead of letting the little guy
Jokic.
handle the rock,
Jokic, point guard,
they're just letting their
Jokic.
best player handle the
7-footer.
rock. And the best players tend to be bigger, or at
Nuggets.
least average in size. These
Nuggets.
guys used to have a specific role, but now that they've lost that role thanks to new offensive schemes and tactics, their value has been minimized. Similar to defense, versatility has taken the place of specialized skill sets on offense. If you're really good, we'll just teach you how to handle the ball and run the offense. Doesn't matter if
Dang.
you're 6'5"
Yeah.
or 7 feet.
If
The
you're
NBA
really
isn't
good, we'll
getting
just
any
teach
bigger.
you.
It's getting more uniform. So where does that leave us with these guys? Will we inevitably see more 7-footers with the ability to bring the ball up the floor, protect the rim, and pull up from 25 feet? Probably not. In fact, the only reason why we didn't see players of this size with this skill set sooner wasn't because they didn't exist. It's because they weren't even allowed to do this stuff before. Check out this video of Shaquille O'Neal at practice in 1996. The skills were there.
Weren't
but
even
putting a
allowed to do
7'1"
this.
inch
Look at Shaq.
monster on the
Hey.
perimeter in the 90s would have been blasphemy. Here's a clip of 7-foot Kevin Garnett handling on-ball pressure and using guard-like skills.
Look at
to get a
KG,
bucket.
man.
If these two, as well as many other great
They
bigs
did.
from the past,
So it's
were
like
given the
teams-
green light to run an offense and handle the ball, they could have done it. And if Wemby and
So
Chet
he's
were
saying
born
that
30 years
teams,
sooner,
that
they
coaches
would
have
been relegated
prevented
to the
them
post
from
like
doing
the
this
players
stuff?
that came before them. But even with teams moving towards, even searching for
Is that
players
what
with
he's saying?
guard-like skills, finding those big players with guard-like skills is still a tall task.
Yeah.
Kristaps Porzingis came into the league as a 7-foot 3-inch wingman who fit well within the Kevin Durant archetype.
Wing.
Could handle the ball and shoot it from outside, but over his career he has settled into a more traditional stretch big man role, where he has found vastly more success. Another example is Bol Bol, who has all the physical tools to be like a Chet or a Wemby, and yet 4 years into his NBA career, and we have yet to see him shine in that role. We may not see more players with this particular blend of size and
Yeah.
skill for a while. These guys are outliers. The goal here is size and shooting and switchability. If you can get super size with all of those skills, well, that's just icing on the cake.
Yeah.
The versatility these types of players
For sure.
provide has, at least to the perception of these teams, outweighed the unique skill sets of players and their roles from the past. With homogenization comes adaptability and switchability. And with this evolution came the extinction of most hyper-specific, highly volatile sizes and roles. And this data, right here, may demonstrate this evolution better than anything else. It's a chart of every player in the NBA in the 1996-1997 season, based on height and weight.
Okay.
And as we touched on before, there was no shortage of variety in the league 25 years ago. Way down here is the smallest player in NBA history.
Look at Muggsy.
5'3" Muggsy Bogues.
Okay.
Pretty confident in saying we'll never see another player like this in the NBA again.
Yeah, I
And on
don't
the
think
complete
so.
opposite end of the spectrum is George Mirasan, the largest player in NBA history. Some other outliers include Priest Lauderdale, a 7'4", 330-pound behemoth of a man. You also got 7'6" Sean
I have
Bradley,
never
your
even heard of
7'1",
him, but okay.
300-pound Shaquille O'Neal. But the majority of players in 1997 fell within this range of size.
Yeah.
6'8", 6'9", 230 pounds. And now here is every player from the 2022-2023 NBA season. All those big enforcers that used to live in the paint have been drastically thinned out. Small guys are still around, but not nearly as much as they used to be. And in the place of those players are these players, who are somewhere in between big and small, and can do a whole lot of both. The NBA isn't getting bigger, it's actually getting more average. Oh, yeah. And here's Victor Wembanyama and Chet Holmgren. Two
Dang.
extraordinary outliers in a league that has become
Wow.
increasingly ordinary.
Ordinary. That's an interesting word to use right there. Ordinary. Increasingly more ordinary. Interesting. Yeah. That's hey man, another good video from Jimmy High Roller as always. Let me know what you guys thought about this. How good do you guys think Victor is gonna be once the season starts? How many games do you guys think he's gonna play? Let me know. I actually want to know what you guys think. Like how many games? Excuse me. How many games do you guys think he'll play? Cause I don't expect him to play all 82. He's got so much potential. Obviously skilled. We're just gonna have to wait and see, man. I'm excited. I can't wait for the NBA season to start, man. I can't wait.